For now, I want to duck up to Queensland to look at border issues as well. And I'm joined again by Ros Bates, who's the shadow health spokesperson in Queensland. Thanks for joining us, Ros. There's been a couple of really ugly examples of overbearing rules here. We talked last week about a family who lost contact with their born son, Harvey. Chantel and Glenn were the parents. Baby was born in northern New South Wales, airlifted to a Brisbane hospital, gratefully for a life-saving treatment, but they were not allowed to cross the border to be with their son. It just seems incredibly heartless and bureaucratic, a rule like that. And then there's another one where there's been an outcome now. Little Luella Gilliland, who's a 2-year-old who had life-saving open-heart surgery in Sydney, and they were going to force her to go into quarantine to get back into Queensland. That's been resolved after your opposition has intervened. But what's going on where bureaucrats or politicians can't make simple, obvious exceptions for people in stress like this?
Well, thanks, Chris, for having me on again. And this is just another example of Labor's wrong priorities. I mean, the Premier needs to show some compassion. These aren't celebrities trying to get across the border. These are families with a little girl, a little 2-year-old who had open heart surgery. And yet it took 2 applications which were refused. And it was only when Deb Frecklington, the leader of the LNP, actually interceded that Annastacia Palaszczuk changed her mind. It's just not good enough.
Look, this is the whole mindset with these people, with some of the politicians, some of the bureaucrats, some of the other officials, is off the planet. We are not talking about Ebola. We are talking about the coronavirus. We are talking about trying to restrict movement to slow the spread of the virus. If there's an individual who, for health reasons or family reasons or other special circumstances, need to cross the border, it should be approved with the stroke of a pen in 5 minutes.
Absolutely, Chris, and, it's put this family through hell. I mean, fancy even suggesting that little girl who had open heart surgery, who the first thing you want to do is get them out of hospital and recuperate at home, was supposed to be holed up in hotel quarantine. I mean, we don't know how clean, whether it had a deep clean. We don't know what other bugs were floating around. Of course, the family wanted to have their daughter at home so that they could look after her. And little kids need to be in their own home environment so that they can recuperate more quickly. It's just stupid, and you're right. It should have just been a ticker box based on compassion, and we're not seeing that in Queensland, and it's just one after the other.
Look, I just don't know how we're going to deal with this, because when you've got governments and bureaucracies operating this way in a range of states, Labor and Liberal, you've just got to change their mindset. How can we ever change their mindset? They seem to get it right in the early part, understand we needed to, slow the spread of the disease and manage it, but they now seem to want to treat any possibility of one person being infected as some sort of political setback or some sort of threat to the state.
Look, it's silly, and they should, as I said, be, given exemptions on health grounds. I mean, this isn't rocket science, Chris. I mean, these are little kids. We've got another lady who's trying to get back to Queensland, who's had brain surgery, for instance. I mean, we have a chief health officer who is a doctor, for goodness sakes. I mean, she is supposedly deciding who gets these exemptions and who doesn't. But, the Premier herself needs to think like an aunt, like a mother, it could be your grandchildren, it could be your child. And, I think I've said to you before, I've got family myself in New South Wales and Victoria, and I have no idea when I'm going to see them. And really, the next wave is going to be mental health problems, and adding to people's trauma right now with these decisions is just ridiculous.
Thanks for joining us, Ros. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Ros Bates, the Queensland Opposition Health spokesperson.